Now, today I am talking about caffeine and alcohol, two areas where there is a lot of confusion, a lot of controversy, and a lot of different opinions. And to be honest, the research is not that clear either. But what I aim to do today is just to give you a brief overview of that research and what the evidence is showing, so that you can then hopefully make some better informed decisions of what your intake of caffeine and alcohol looks like. So we start with caffeine, and this is very much a debated topic. According to research, there is moderate daily consumption doesn't seem to really reduce fertility until you've had at least five or more cups of coffee a day. So when that limit is increased and someone's having more than five cups of coffee and caffeine a day, at that point, they start to see an impact on clinical pregnancy rates and live birth rates decreasing. But a couple of cups of coffee, not so much of an issue. Um, One thing that's really important to consider as well is that caffeine doesn't just come from coffee and tea, as we commonly think. It can also be found in things like chocolate, green tea as well. So, and energy drinks. It's really important to be monitoring, excuse me, monitoring your intake of those as well. If you are choosing to drink coffee, I would recommend choosing organic. And this is to reduce the toxins. So, when coffee is produced commercially, they can use a lot of toxic chemicals to process that coffee into the form that you then use at home. And even when they're decaffeinating as well, they can use lots and lots of very harsh chemicals. So there is a process of decaffeination called the Swiss water method. And I would encourage you that if you're buying decaffeinated coffee, to be looking for coffee beans that have been processed by that method, because that just reduces the level of toxicity. Um, and one thing as well that's important to note about coffee, it's full of really good polyphenols. Now, these are plant chemicals that are very helpful and beneficial in our body and helpful for fertility. So, coffee does have a good element to it as well. It's not all about the caffeine, it's also about the polyphenols. And even if you have decaffeinated coffee, you're still getting that polyphenol benefit. So if you like coffee, not so much from the hit that it gives you, but from the habits, the feeling you get, the taste of it, then maybe think to switch to the decaffeinated version as well. But what I want people to always consider when they do have coffee is the reason behind why you're wanting to have coffee. Um, and we know that caffeine can have an impact on your sleep at night. It's a stimulant. Some people choose coffee because of that stimulating effect and that stimulating impact. If you are someone that feels you need to have a coffee to keep going throughout the day, that's when I normally get my clients to be questioning why. Why is it that your energy is not sustaining you throughout the day? That's when we look more to the diet, to blood sugar balance, and to try and understand why that energy might be fluctuating, hence you reach for the coffee. If someone's drinking coffee in an afternoon or evening, again, it's a stimulant, so it's understanding that half-life. So the half-life is how long it takes for something to be decreased in activity by a half. And we know that caffeine has a half-life of about 7 hours. So if you have a cup of coffee at, say, um, midday, 12 o'clock midday, it's like having half a cup of coffee at 7 p.m., which a lot of people probably wouldn't be thinking to do. So it is really important to be considering, if you do drink caffeinated drinks, when do you stop in the day? When do you stop drinking? I normally recommend to my clients to stop about lunchtime, whether that's 12 or 1 o'clock, and move to decaffeinated if you're going to have some later, but stop the caffeine at lunchtime. There are alternatives like green tea, dandelion tea. I mentioned green tea does have caffeine in, but the level of caffeine is a lot lower. So that's a really big differential there. So really, as I say, it is debatable. There is no need to be completely removing it from your diet and from your intake. It's just being mindful. of how much you're having, of when you're having your last cup of caffeine, and the reasons behind why you're reaching for that cup of coffee. So now we move on to alcohol. And again, this is another really debated and controversial one. So in women, we know that there are risks of conditions such as fetal alcohol syndrome, where someone is drinking heavily in pregnancy and that can affect the fetus and its development. So we know that there is no safe limit in pregnancy. There's even a debate as to whether a couple of drinks a week in pregnancy can increase the risk of miscarriage. And so that's why there's no safe limit identified. But prior to pregnancy, the data is not so clear. We do see that when there is binge drinking, this could potentially have an impact on ovarian reserve measured by AMH. And AMH levels have been shown to be about 26% lower when someone is binge drinking. And this tends to be when someone is drinking solely on the weekend or 1 or 2 times a week. There have been some associations noted when people are drinking maybe 1 to 6 drinks a week and an increased level of infertility. So the advice really for female fertility, again, would be to abstain. The odd drink here and there, special occasions, weddings, celebrations, that isn't something that I would worry about. That is absolutely fine. But it's really having a consistent drinking pattern is something that I would be advising against for female fertility because it's just not, the evidence is just not there to say that it's okay. In men, again, the data is not clear. So heavy drinking can definitely impact sex hormone production and it can impact erectile functioning and sperm production. So heavy drinking is something to be avoided. However, moderate drinking is a little bit less clear. Some reports have shown an impact on sperm morphology being affected, but the other parameters don't appear to be as impacted. So again, it's that moderation. It's having maybe the odd pint of beer after work on a Friday or at the rugby match on a Saturday, something like that, but not having those regular pints or glasses of wine throughout the week and then binge drinking on the weekend. That would not be recommended. In IVF and when people are undergoing treatment, the picture is a little more clear. So there does appear to be a clear negative impact on couples going through treatment. Factors like number of eggs collected, chances of pregnancy and live birth all do appear to be influenced by the amount of alcohol consumed in that treatment cycle for both men and women. So there is around sort of a 21% decreased chance for live birth if 4 or more drinks are consumed in a week. And again, therefore, the advice is clear when you're going through an IVF treatment cycle, abstain. Okay. So really, what is coming over from the evidence on both caffeine and alcohol is moderation is key. You don't need to be perfect with this. It's not a case of you can't have it ever. With caffeine, you can maybe have a little bit more. You can enjoy 1 or maybe 2 cups of coffee and then move to decaffeinated. You're still getting the benefits of those polyphenols in the decaffeinated coffee as well. With alcohol, it's a little bit more towards abstaining more than just moderating, but the odd drinks here and there still is going to be okay. It's not going to be having a dramatic effect if you just have 1 glass of champagne at a celebration or something like that. So it's really understanding about that that moderation. So that is going to be that has covered, sorry, lost my train of thought. That has covered the caffeine and alcohol. And therefore, what I will do is I will move on to some other topics. Please let me know in the comments whether you have any questions on caffeine and alcohol intake and fertility, if you found that helpful. And if you did, please subscribe so you can be informed of when I bring more videos out. If there are any topics that you would like me to cover, again, please just let me know. And I will be back soon.